and welcome to free coaching with me, with me, Vibe. Today's a gold level Zerg vs Zerg. We have Kush King versus Rage. I'm kind of interested to see how these two will play this game. I chose a 4-player map because 4-player maps do definitely change up the style of Zerg vs Zerg. It gets a little weird. So, yeah, let's see how they really want to go about it. So far, both players doing a gas trick. That's fine. I'm not really I don't really have an issue with that. Sometimes I do gas tricks myself too. Sometimes I go 13 Overlord. Doesn't really matter. The big goal here is when you're starting off the game, you don't ever want to hit 3 larvae after like the first second of the game, because you start with 3 larvae. You just don't ever want to hit it again for a while, because as soon as you hit 3 larvae, you don't actually generate larvae anymore. It just stops. Larva generation ceases to exist. They're both going for a 17 hatchery. I like it. So far, what I've seen, Rage a little bit slower at making drones than Kush King is. One tip I can give you guys as lower league players is, unless you're saving money to build a building, honestly, just make your fingers roll the fucking keys of whatever you have bound to it. If it's like 1 is your hatchery and you want to make a drone, go like 1 SD, 1 SD, 1 SD, 1 SD. You're not doing anything right now anyways. You're just sitting here, macroing. You might as well do it properly. Because a lot of times if you're going to make drones, but you sit there and you wait until you have like 150 minerals and then you make 2 drones when you could have made them 10 seconds ago, well, that's time you're missing. So just get in the habit of like rolling your fingers. Blah, 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 blah. Make drone, make drone, make drone, make drone, make drone. And then as soon as you know you want to save, you're like, alright, I'm at that checkpoint. I want to make my building now. Well, then make a building. Stop making your larva into something. And then after you make the building, just go back into rolling your fingers, man. Roll your fingers. That's why a lot of people are like, why do higher league level players roll their fingers on the keyboard? Well, it's because they're maximizing time. Every second a larva is up that you're going to make into something, but it's not being made, is a wasted second. Which is why higher league players get ahead of lower league players, because they're maximizing their time, they're not wasting time. So that's a big tip. That's honestly huge. You guys should definitely do that. Another big tip I would give players, that I like what Kush King is doing over Rage. As soon as your pool's done, make at least 2 Zerglings. 4 is kind of, oh, whatever. Some people like 4. I prefer 2 myself, but you need to make Zerglings, and you need to go scout across the map. Right now, Kush King has lings on the map. He's actually scouting incorrectly, though. But he'll figure it out eventually. He's actually, oh, there we go. He's going down. These lings, you should always get into your opponent's base as fast as fucking possible, because if you scout your opponent's base, and you see a lot of drones like this, well, you know you're not getting all in. But let's say these drones didn't actually, they were not built, and let's say instead of making 10 drones, we actually have 20 Zerglings just pooling up right here. Well, if you scout that before it's actually at your base, you could do things like build a spine crawler, make extra queens, prepare for it before it kills you, you know what I mean? Always, always, always scout across the map immediately with at least 2 Zerglings. It's very important. We have a Rage right now. He actually went for 4 queens. It's okay. I don't prefer it because 4 queens is what that's doing is it's you know, it's slowing down things. Like, I like that he's taking a 3rd anyways, but 4 queens is slowing down things like he could be making a roach warren instead. He could have made a baneling nest instead. He could have made more lings instead. He could have taken a 3rd instead. 4 queens is just like safe against potential all-ins because he hasn't scouted at all other than his overlord. So I really would like it if he would scout with a couple lings and just go look at the base. This is kind of just like blind safe opening. But yeah, like these queens actually would defend well against ling baneling, but they would be horrible against someone who would go for a roach like a geez, oh my god, sorry, I'm like stuttering here. If someone went for a spawning pool into a roach warren right away and skipped baneling nest, these queens would do absolutely nothing. They would just get shit on and die. That's the so there's a hole already in that build right there, going mass queens like this. But he's going for a roach warren himself now. Both players actually going for a roach warren. We have a way quicker layer out of Rage here. And Rage is also droning his ass off. It's pretty greedy, pretty risky. If either player in this situation and these spawn locations would have all in the other one would have died. Both players playing pretty greedy. But Kush King did scout his opponent. He did see that there's a lot of drones, so he eliminated the possibility of there being... Kush King eliminated the possibility of Rage all-inning because he scouted. Also, by the way, thanks for the resub, dude. Now we got roaches moving across the map for Kush King. Yeah, I feel like this is a little risky because if there's a lot of hatchery, there's a lot of possible production. If Rage made like 12 Zerglings right now, or just makes his own roaches, he'll easily defend this. And Zerglings could kill these roaches before they retreat. So I don't really want these roaches to get just, you know, sacrificed and thrown away. I would love it if he just turns around right now. He should just go home with these roaches. Kush King should turn around. Because if these roaches were to die, get overpowered, die, and then let's say it forced out a lot of units from Rage, in Rage counterattack, look what's here to defend for Kush King. Nothing. He's got a spine crawler. And he's making drones. So if these roaches die and there was a counterattack, he's screwed. He would actually die. And Speedlings could get from this base right here to this base over here pretty damn fast. Both players having a little bit of a greedy builds going on here. But at this point, though, if I'm Rage, I'm playing as Rage right now. What do? I already have good saturation. I have a good amount of roaches. You know, he already made a lot of roaches because he wasn't sure if there was going to be a huge follow-up of units. What I would do as Rage is, honestly, I would move out with my current army, and I would fully saturate my third behind it. I would go back to making drones if I were him. Because if he already has the third, and he already has a good standing army, I feel like if he saturates his third behind this, the fact that he's already moved out, like, if he makes more roaches, he's not really going to be able to reinforce that quickly. I would love it if he just makes drones behind it. It'll really get him a good lead. And he's doing a lot of damage right now. If I'm Kush King, I also would just need to be making roaches. We see the macro up here for Kush King is actually kind of slacking, which is why he's getting overrun right now. I would just make, you know, kind of I would probably sacrifice this third base and be like, alright, fuck, this sucks. I've lost the third. I would just try to regroup in my natural. But I feel like the game's honestly actually over at this point. The fact that one of them loses a third and the other one doesn't is huge. It's a very big deal. Because both players here pretty soon are going to start mining out of their main. You actually really do need a third base. Like, the main's going to mine out within the next few minutes. The main usually mines out around like 11 minutes. So the longer that this contain lasts, the more screwed that Kush King will get. Again, like, what I would do is Kush King. I would probably throw down a Hydralisk skin right now and try to go into Lurker. Meanwhile, just make mass roaches. Just make mass roaches. I would not go down the ramp ever. That's a bad idea. Just make mass roaches, try to go Lurker. You're behind in terms of roach count. If you can actually somehow manage to get Lurker out, you could cost efficiently make the difference up in supply. If I'm Rage, I fully saturate 3 base. I actually take a 4th base. And I scout him with an Overseer to see what tech he's going to go into. Because the guy who's defensive like this has to go into something. If he just goes roaches, he's dead anyways. But I would... Rage really needs to scout right now. And go, okay, what's your tech path? Because if he makes a wrong move right here, he loses the contain. He loses his advantage, potentially. But if he scouts and sees what he's up against, like... He could actually... If he scouted ahead, he could actually just break the natural. But he's actually gone back to... He droned up behind it. Like, I like that. Yeah, he needs to scout, basically. He needs to scout the base, be like, alright, what am I up against? He is actually doing that right now with the servers here. So that's good. We see a Hydralisk thing now coming out of Kush King. That's good by him. He does really need something cost-efficient to deal with this. Infestors or a Swarmhost are not the way to go about doing it. You're never going to kill... You're never going to have damage output well enough with supply for, like, off of 2 bases to deal with a bunch of roaches with either Infestor or Swarmhost. They're both going to fail at that job. So Lurkers is your best bet. He's actually going into Hydras, though. That's a little iffy. I don't like that. Hydras aren't really cost-efficient enough, because what's going to happen is look at the supply difference here. If he goes Hydras, he's just going to get overrun in the natural, and like Rage is just going to like push through and kill him. So I really would recommend Lurker for sure. And Rage here is taking a 4th. I like. He's actually going for a 5th base. That's really good. There's nothing stopping him from expanding right now. I like that he's being very efficient with the economy. Kush King should not look for a fight. He should not. He should just cancel the 3rd again. Do not try to even defend it. The fact that he's trying to defend it it means he's losing units. And look, Rage wants to trade units here. Kush King just needs to tech to something and go for like this, oh shit, this unit's really cost efficient kind of an army, and then expand from there. So he really needs, like, he fucking needs lurkers or he's dead. Because the one mistake Rage could make is he could just overmake roaches and like cheap units and just go for this, like, I'm gonna just hit you over the head with a hammer kind of a move. Which is, it's not bad, but if he runs too much of that into like something like lurkers and he just wastes a lot of supply doing that, that is actually what Kush King could, you know, capitalize on to come back in the game. I do like for instance, just to explain this better, I like that Rage killed the 3rd and then contained his opponent. I like that. What he should have done behind that is behind containing is checked for future expansions, like go check for hidden bases, and also tech behind it. Like go up, like I like that he has infestors, but he's actually, it looks like he's gonna break him. There needs to be lurkers right now. If lurkers were here, this would not be broken. This actually would be the fight where if there was like 5 lurker or 6 lurker, if all these roaches run up the ramp, they all die immediately, and then Kush King could like take a 3rd. But he went for Hydra, which is, it's not a good move because he's behind in economy. You can't really expect to win a fight when you're going to fight straight up, like against each other, when your army is going to be so much smaller than your opponent, because they have a better economy than you. The Infestor choice for Rage, though, it's okay. It's kind of well-rounded. Like, if his opponent went for Spire, it would be good. I would say that would actually be a good choice. But he scouted his opponent, went for a Hydraliston and an Infestation Pit. Seeing that as Rage, I would rather see Rage go for his own Spire or Hydras himself. Something different than Infestor. The Infestor choice is a little weird for what he was up against. But anyways, I'm going to talk about this game for a minute, guys. I'm going to talk about this game for just a minute. So, both players in the beginning of the game did not really diligently scout the other very quickly. So what I'll talk about it from Kush King's perspective really quick, and I'll spend like a minute or two on it, and then I'll go to Rage's perspective. From Kush King's perspective, he was the one who made Zerglings early to go scout, but what he did was he scouted to the middle of the map first, and then he like kind of waddled down to the bottom left base. He didn't really get into the base very quickly to see what was going on. Like if he was gonna get all in, he would have died straight up, but he wasn't getting all in. He eventually saw after a while, okay, you have a lot of drones, and you're not all-inning me. And he also saw a 3rd. So what he did from there was, like, he actually took his own 3rd first as well. But what he did from there was he made like 5 roaches, and then he made drones behind it. He just went mass drones behind 5 roaches. And when he made mass drones, that's good, but it's kind of scary at the same time, because if he sends 5 roaches out across the map, okay? Kush King sends 5 roaches out across the map, and he's fully saturating 3 bases behind it. When he sends 5 roaches out across the map, typically your opponent is going to go, oh shit, units are coming across the map. Your opponent might go, okay, it's time for me to make a lot of units myself, because this might be his attack, I need to get prepared. In doing that, if he moves out across the map, not only with 5 roaches, not only is he susceptible to getting surrounded and killed by like a bunch of speedlings, his roaches can't retreat at that point, but he's also susceptible to a counter timing at that point, because he's potentially making his opponent force out a lot of units. And behind that, after he sent out 5 roaches, he eventually sent them into the mineral line in the 3rd. He killed a couple drones, but the roaches did eventually die. The one mistake he made, the biggest mistake he made, was not only did he lose those roaches, but he was supply blocked because he was focusing way too much on micro on these roaches. Which, yeah, they were getting a little bit of damage done, but in reality, he did more damage to himself because he neglected his macro and did not make overlords. And he actually had he was floating like 1,300 minerals when a bunch of roaches came in and killed his 3rd, which turned the game into what it was. So, if you let's say the 1,300 minerals, instead of being supply blocked and sitting there in his bank, was actually roaches, he could have had about like 16 more roaches in the fight, or so. It's like around there. He could have had about 16 more roaches in the fight, which actually would have been enough to repel the attack, and the game would have gone on from there with both players on 3 bases. That's the common mistake a lot of low league players make, is they focus way too hard on micro. They're always focusing like way too hard on like, all right, I gotta make my shit efficient, and then before they know it, 2 minutes have gone by. They haven't injected, they haven't made overlords, and they're like, wow, my money's really high. I should probably go back to making, doing macro. That's mechanics right there. Like, as a low league player, you have to focus all your fucking attention on macro. Like, micro is so fucking irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. Because you're going to get such minor damage done, and you're going to do more damage to yourself than your opponent with poor macro, because you're focusing way too hard on micro. So then from there, the way the game went in, where he got contained on 3 bases, or sorry, Kush King over here got contained on 2 bases, while his opponent had a bunch of Roach Ravager down the ramp. The best unit I would recommend a player to use if you're being contained like that, and you're way down against a similar army, like a ground-based army, is Lurker. Lurker is the only unit you can make as Zerg that's going to cost-efficiently kill Zerglings, Roaches, Hydras, Infestors, whatever. Anything on the ground, Lurker is your most cost-efficient unit to deal with that. Especially since you're going to be the one who's on defense, because your opponent has a superior economy. Your opponent has a better economy than you. If you go down the ramp and fight them, they're going to have not only more than you down the ramp, so you're going to lose that fight, but they're going to remake units faster than you on top of that, because they have a better economy. So they're just all around. They want you to fight their army because they're going to win. If you fight straight up like roach to roach, they're going to get better trades than you because they can make it faster than you can. But Lurker, on the other hand, is a unit that, like, again, it's very cost efficient. It kills a shitload of roaches very quickly. It's the best case scenario. Like, the best unit you could have made in this position is Lurker. And then you take your third behind Lurker, and then you go into like Roach Hydra once you have 3 base and you actually have like a really strong army. And then, yeah, that's what I would recommend for Kush King this game. Now, onto Rage's side. Rage was very fucking greedy. He did not scout at all. He was like 4 minutes into the game, and the only scouts that were out were like this Overlord over here, which didn't even check up here. And there was an Overlord that went down here, and eventually this Overlord saw that, okay, my opponent's bottom right. But Rage did not have any fucking idea that his opponent was, what his opponent was doing for a long time. And instead what he did was, he made 4 queens. He eventually made 1 spine crawler. The spine crawler is really late though, by the way. The spine crawler went down when he was at like 37 supply. But he made 4 queens, he made 2 sets of 2 queens, and then he eventually made a Roach Warren. But he droned his ass off. He was very greedy. Now, if I was playing against someone like Rage, and I saw this guy just making mass drones, and he didn't have a Baneling Nest, like if I scouted him, I didn't see a Baneling Nest, I didn't see an Evo Chamber, I didn't see a Roach Warren. All I saw was a couple queens and drones going everywhere, just like being built nonstop. And then I saw, oh look, he's also taking a fucking 3rd base. My reaction to that would be, alright, I'm just gonna make fucking roaches and go kill him. Roaches and lings. Because it's like so, it is so greedy. Like this build is it has a huge hole in the opening, and it's, if you attack me, I'm probably gonna die. Granted, if he gets attacked by little tiny pressures of like, let's say 12 Zerglings and 2 Banelings, a few queens and a spine killer can easily absorb that and deal with it, no problem. That's totally reasonable. But if you scout your opponent is this fucking greedy, you can easily kill them with a timing. It's not even, it doesn't have to be an all-in, it could just be a timing. He could have died to like, let's say there was only 6 drones on the mirror line to the natural and the main's fully saturated off of 1 gas, and 8 roaches get built, and then 30 Zerglings go with that. 8 roaches and 30 Zerglings could overpower 1 spine and 4 queen and kill a ton of drones. Very realistic. But granted, aside from that, he was greedy. He actually got away with it because Kush King didn't really capitalize on pressuring that. He only made 5 roaches way later, and then that was already when all the drones were already built. I did like the way that Rage kind of like, played in the mid game though. He moved across the map with a good timing. He actually killed his opponent's 3rd, and then he didn't overcommit to attacking into the natural. In Legacy of the Void, it's actually so fucking important. The logic of containment is so good. It's so important in Legacy of the Void because you mine out so much faster now than you did when you compare it to Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. In Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, Kush King over here could max out, even though he lost his third, he could max out off of a good army off of 2 bases. Because these minerals would last for fucking ever. They would last a very long time. But in Legacy of the Void, you like each base, the resources has been reduced by about 30%. You mine out way quicker than you used to. So things like if you contain your opponent and you make it to where you're always going to get a cost-efficient fight defensively and make them come into you, because you're containing the fact that they can't go down the ramp and take a third and stuff like that again. You put your opponent into a position where they have to make something happen now, or they're dead anyways. So it's like you're forcing your opponent to make a cost-inefficient fight, or they just die because they mine out and now they have no more income. And the longer that goes, where you have an advantage, like you have superior economy, like if you're on 3 base, your opponent's on 2 base, and you just sit here, every second that goes by in that game, you get further and further and further ahead. So it's really good to, you know, utilize things like that, capitalize on shit like that. So I liked that Rage stayed down the ramp and just contained his opponent. I also like the fact that an Overseer eventually went through and scouted, okay, are you going into mutas now? Are you going lurkers now? Are you going for like a Nidus all in? What are you doing behind the fact that now you're contained? Because you can reactively counter what they're doing. If they're going for mutas, you can add in like infestors and hydras and maybe make a couple spores per base so you don't lose any drones. If they're going for mass roaches, you yourself could make lurkers and contain them. If they're going for like, you know, oh, he's going like Ultralisk now or some shit, you could do all these different counters to what he's doing. But basically, and you could also read his base and go, if you're teching too hard and you don't have enough, well, I could just move in your natural and kill you. Which is what he ended up doing. He did scout. He was not against lurkers. He only scouted the Hydralisk Den, not a lurker cavern. So he decided to just fucking go up the ramp and attack him, which I was fine with, because he was already maxed out as well. You at that point, as the guy with the superior economy, if you think you're going to get a decent trade and you're not just going to run into like throw your army away, it's definitely worth your investment to attack your opponent, because you can remax again and again and again. Meanwhile, your opponent really can't. He's the guy who's like, fuck, my money is so precious, I don't have any. Shit like that, you know. So, yeah, basically that's, I could keep reiterating what I've already said, but that's basically my recap on both players, what I think they did good, what I think they did bad. The biggest thing I can recommend to, like the general grand rule, if you're a lower league player, is don't try to micro a lot. Don't try to do all these fancy builds where you do all these harasses and shit like that. Just focus on not supply blocking and not wasting time with your larva. Like, focus on macro. Focus on getting your bases saturated as fast as possible, while not, you know, being super lazy and greedy about it. Like, not scouting at all is a little crazy. But just focus on not supply blocking, and once you've saturated your bases, you focus on not wasting time in making your units, like making roaches. Because if you do that, you will almost always win the game against someone else in a lower league. Like if you do it properly. I've done go look at one of my other videos. I do like proper macro. I don't even micro at all in that game. Go look at it. It's another VOD. It's on the same YouTube channel. You'll see it, and maybe that'll, you know, be more insight onto what I just said. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. End of the video. Hope you guys have a good fucking night. Have a good night. Give yourself a pat on the back. You made it to the end of the video. Bye, guys.